Hey everybody, Debo here, bringing you guys another video about the Helltooth build. This variation actually uses the zombie bears. The highest I see somebody get to it is 59, and that's with decked out gear, high level gems. I'm talking about level 60 gems or higher. Most of their sets being ancient and all that good stuff, and just really decked out. I still prefer the Gargantuan build. Gargantuan's a little bit less stressful, a little bit less crazy because the Gargantuan does all the damage. The thing about zombie bears with the Helltooth set is that sometimes when you put yourself up to being that close to enemies, it can cause a negative feedback on what's going on. It just basically you'll get trashed a lot. So with that being said, if you were to ask me which one I would rather run, I'd rather run the Gargantuan version with the Helltooth. If you ask me which one is easier, it's going to be Gargantuan with Helltooth. Zombie bears is doable, but I always tell people the thing between risk, the reward for the risk that you take, and I just wanted to put that out there before people come back and say, "Hey, Debo, I tried the Helltooth with zombie bear build and that was terrible." Well, I mean, yeah. So you've been warned. But I did this because I saw some people get up to 60 with it. I was only able to get 53 up to it. I guess I got to improve my game and improve my my gear settings and stuff, and I was running out of crafting materials. But let's just go ahead and just do a quick overview of the build. This build runs 6 pieces of the Helltooth set: the shoes, the pants, the chest, the head, and the shoulder, and the gloves, right? Of course, you're going to be using the Drom's bracers. Now, I've seen some people not use this, and I've seen some people have used this. I prefer to use it because getting the 3 walls of death, it just makes sense, right? Also, the Eye of Elich is pretty nice, but you probably would want a Helltooth necklace because you want the extra passive, whichever that may be. But this is pretty nice because of reduced damage, and that does help a lot. The helmet's pretty straightforward. Int, critical chance, and increased zombie bear damage because you can get it on the helmet. The shoulders are Int Vitality. I don't know if I want to reduce cooldown. I probably would have took armor and then maybe all resources cost, or preferably probably Int Vitality, Wall of Death damage increase, and then reduce resource cost because it does cost a lot to cast the zombie bears. Same thing with the gloves. Int, critical percent chance, critical damage, reduce all resource costs. Int Vitality, Wall of Death on the chest. Or life percent in this situation because I wanted to have a little bit more survivability. Drom's bracers are going to be poison, Int, Vitality, critical percent chance. Belt of Transcendent, pretty straightforward, it's as tanky as you can get it. The focus and the restraint, best stats you can get is Int, critical percent chance, critical damage, and socket. You also could do reduce resource cost, critical percent chance, critical damage, and socket. That would probably be the best one to have on both rings, just so you can have more spams out of the zombie bear. Pants are straightforward, and also the shoes have zombie charger damage along with the Int Vitality, preferably armor, but I got all resistance, so that's okay. I really am hurting myself. I need to get an ancient SMK, but those are easier said than done. Ooh, reduce cooldown by 10%. Huh, I didn't know I had that on there. Huh. I was using the wrong SMK. I should have had the one with the critical damage, but hey, that's okay. And then also the Ukapin Serpent. And that is with the Int Vitality, critical chance, and the increased zombie charger damage. Now, more of these zombie charger builds, they use a Thing of the Deep. And I guess if you have really good rolls in your gear, and you have high levels in your Stoic Alteration, and also your Molten Will to Gizzard Beast, or Will to Beats Gizzard, then you could do that. Mine is pretty low at 40 and 35, so those could have been a lot higher. Probably around 55. Maybe even up to 60, that would make a big difference. And also the Bay of the Powerful. Once you start getting to the limitations of a certain build, the gems do play a huge role in you progressing onward. And then also your Paragon level. So I could have definitely improved upon that to get a higher level result. For this specific build, when I'm running the zombie bears, what I actually usually like to run is, like, for the most part, I run Pierce the Veil, Swampland Attunement, Confidence Ritual. I was trying it with the two-hander before, so that's why I ran it with Spirit Vessel, because I had less survivability. But in this situation, when I do have so much survivability, with the additional skill, I usually like to make sure that's Gruesome Feast, okay? Spirit Walk is always going to be there. Instead of Piranhas or Perinado, some people run, a lot of the higher ones ran that. I ran actually ended up being the Zombie Dogs with Leeching Beasts because it combos in with the Ukapin Serpent, and that's additional damage mitigation. Because when you do that, you need a lot of survivability. You need, well, not necessarily survivability, but you just need a lot of damage mitigation because you're always going to be up close in arms with these monsters, and you don't want to have that kind of problem. So yeah, the big ones is Spirit Walk, Summon Dogs, Leech and Beast, Zombie Bears, Zombie Charger, Zombie Bears, Big Bad Voodoo. And then, of course, I ran with the Wall of Death with Consuming Spirits. And then for my primary, I use Corpse Spiders. Or if I didn't use Corpse Spiders, I'd use actually Corpse Spiders with the Blazing Spiders for the mana, or you can use Plague of Toads with the Toad Infinity. That works pretty okay as well, too. That will do two things. Give you back mana, and then also trigger the Focus and Restraint for the primary skill part of it. And then, of course, when you're casting Zombie Bear, that will trigger the other part of the Focus and Restraint. So yeah, Confidence Victor for the 25% additional damage when you're within 20 yards of the enemy. Pierce Develop for the 20% increased damage at the cost of increasing things by 30%. The reason why, I know some people say, well, you don't want to run this because you might use up a lot of mana. I mean, I guess you can get rid of it, but the big thing is you want to use it because if you have a high enough Paragon level and the perfect gear, you should have no mana problems. Gruesome Feast, of course, it gets better the more intelligence you have, especially if you're getting to Paragon level 100 or higher. It makes a really hell of a big difference. Swampland Attunement, the more enemies around you, the more survivability you get. So that's also a very good skill when you're going around mob and stuff. So that's pretty much the overall build, at least the way I run it. I don't think it's the most optimum way, but it's just a way that I found it to work with me with such low-level gems and kind of subpar gear. Now, in 53 it's okay. It's not the greatest, but it's okay. For your potion, you can use whatever you want. We're sitting at 1.6k damage, 18.5k toughness. Our critical chance is 60%. Critical hit damage is 448%, so I can afford to lose a little bit of critical chance, but it's whatever. That's neither here nor there. We're using the Historic Alteration, which basically you get 27, well, you get whatever percentage level it is, non-physical damage reduction. And while below half-life, your resistances go up through the roof. So when you do dip below half-life, it'll kind of keep you alive and give you a natural, bigger, survivability. This is pretty nice. Molten Wilderness Gizzard regenerate 50% life, 50,000 life per second. After not taking damage for 4 seconds, you gain absorption of 200% of your total life per second, which actually does make a big deal. Like I said, survivability is a big thing in this build because you're going to be up close versus like a lot of monsters, so you got to be careful. I've been running Bane of the Powerful just to get the extra elite damage and 20% increased damage if you kill an elite. If it's not that one, I think honestly Bane of the Trap or a Facious Toxin Gem would do a lot better. Maybe if you're running the two-handed version of this build with Wormwood, you definitely want to run the Facious Toxin Gem, but for this situation, I probably should have ran Bane of the Trap. But, the Bane of the Powerful worked out pretty good, and plus it gave me a little bit extra elite damage. Alright, so that's pretty much over the build. Paragon, I would always tell you movement speed and intelligence, and then I always would tell you critical percent chance and critical damage and everything else. And you probably would want to take attack speed before you take cooldown because the attack speed allows you to spam more zombie bears. Life regeneration, I'm sorry, hold on. Armor, then life, then resist all, then life regeneration. And then also you would want resource cost reduction, area damage, and life on hit. And that's pretty much it for the whole build and how the skills and everything gets placed. Let me go ahead and just switch it over here and bring it up to the video here. Let me see if I can get the right one. Yeah, there we go. So this is the Helltooth, and this is going to be at 53. And we'll just load that up. And, I mean, as long as you get a lot of mobs, this build actually ends up working quite well. So with all the survivability that I have, the main thing you want to do, and I started realizing, is that you need to start, when you have more mobs, the more damage you can actually end up doing. Or not more damage, I'm sorry. The more survivability you can get. So the one thing I kind of don't like about this is compared to the Gargantuan build is that, you know what, in all honesty, you need to, how do I say it? For this build to really do well, I kind of feel like you have to kind of get certain type of mobs, and you need to get nice mob densities. As long as you get that, I think the build can, like I said, hit up to 60. But you definitely require some fishing and stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of it, but if you're just playing this build straight up, for the most part, when you start getting past the 50s, it really kind of comes down to can you get a lot of mob density. If you get a lot of mob density, you can round them all up, get your increased toughness to the to your passive, And because the more monsters you pick up, or the more monsters that are around you, the more the passive works in your favor and gives you more survivability. So that's the big thing. Because when you have small monster packs, that's when you're most vulnerable. You don't got all that extra additional, stat increase for not having a bunch of monsters around you. Again, if you'd like to run Thing of the Deep, that's perfectly fine as well too. Because with Thing of the Deep, you get the damage increase, and with the damage increase, well, not the damage increase. I'm sorry, the radius increase. And when you get that radius increase, it makes it a lot easier for you to get the the effects of the attunement. To basically skyrocket up and give you a ton of toughness, because your radius is not, instead of 20 yards, is actually 40 yards. So not too much going on here. The rift took about 12 minutes. So the fetishes are a pretty nice additional of stable damage. The dogs are pretty there because of Leeching Beast, and they give you back life. And most importantly, they trigger you Ukip and Serpent. Hopefully here's when I start to, well, I got a Conduit pylon, which is pretty nice. They kind of toned it down a little bit. It's not as crazy as it was before. The first initial PTR release of the Conduit was pretty insane in terms of what it can do. And so I got pretty lucky here with the Rift. As you can see, it died right there. I think there was like a little bit of lag. That was happening pretty much late night, which was driving me nuts, but it wasn't too bad because we had the Conduit Shrine made up for it. But we had some good mob density here, and as you can see, for 53, when usually stuff are hitting really hard, it's not hitting me too bad as long as I'm on my P's and Q's and I'm observing what I'm doing, and as long as I keep my Wall of Death up, I get the 40% damage reduction. Plus, since we're using the Consuming Spirit one, or the Communing Spirits, I'm sorry, that makes it so monsters do 25% less damage. And with the 25% less damage, that just adds on, and just to the whole bigger picture, makes it so that we don't take a lot of damage. But at some point, I think the build will start to get hurt by having too much survivability. But then again, if you don't have the survivability and you go up this close to zombie wall or zombie charger, you will pretty much just die. So I mean, that's pretty much it to the build. Just keeping with the big bad voodoo. Making sure I always cast the spiders. I like to cast spiders and then cast zombie bear, cast spiders, cast zombie bear, because they'll give me back mana. And then also it triggers the effect of the focus. One of the focuses, or one of the focus restraint, it triggers one of them, and then of course when you cast your zombie bear, it will trigger the other effects, so you keep that increased 100% damage up. And sometimes damage is pretty nice when the Convention of Elements actually pops up, because when the Convention of Elements pops up, it actually increases the damage by a large margin, especially when it's on poison. Oh, I didn't even talk about my Kanai Cube choices. My Kanai Cube choices was the new Zombie Bear weapon that makes it so that Zombie Bears take 40% less, or cost 40% less resources. I'm also using Grim Reaper because they changed Grim Reaper for their mimics to actually be able to do as much damage as you do, and it takes an account of the Helltooth set. So when the mimics cast it, they'll do kind of pretty much the same damage as you. And then of course, Convention of Elements is my last choice for my Kanai Cube options, and that's why I'm able. Well, that's why I'm running the 6-piece Helltooth set, so I can run those options. I really like to run Jerome or something else like Furnace or something. But for the zombie bears, you really do need that mana regeneration. Well, maybe if you ran it without Pierce the Veil, then you could run Furnace. But that resource cost reduction is pretty damn good. I'm pretty sure if you got every single piece you could with resource cost reduction while still not basically trading out any of your zombie increased damage, I'm pretty sure you won't need to run that weapon. You actually probably could run Furnace. You definitely would want to, because you really need the elites to die really fast. Now, I've also been experimenting with this build and trying to do it with a two-hander build with the Wormwood. I kind of prefer the two-hander build. It does a lot more damage. The casts are a little bit slow, but I feel like the Wormwood is just so solid because, or maybe even using the Furnace. Well, the Wormwood is because, the auto-cast the Locust Swarm, and that damage is pretty solid and spot on. And when it auto-casts the Locust Swarm, that counts as one triggering the effect of the Focus and Restraint, which is fantastic. And then the only thing you got to worry about is throwing spiders. and to trigger the other effects. So it triggers a focus and restraint, and it is extra damage on the monsters all over the screen. I'd really love to do something with like Wormwood, and then do something like what is it? My mind's going blank here. The gem that gives poison damage for the legendary gem set. I'm so bad. The gem of infectious toxin. There we go. I don't know what's happening to my brain. I should have drank some coffee. So I would like to run the Wormwood infectious toxin gem, Bane of the Trapped, and then another DPS gem. I don't like running the 2 defense gems, but I mean it's part of how things go. I'm thinking if you got a real solid like ancient set of Helltooth and you did it right, I think you actually could run it like that. But I mean, you would be at such risk going in because I mean that damage mitigation does make a big difference, and you're not having the Ukip and Serpent for the dogs to mitigate the damage. But the Wormwood auto casting Locust Form with the increased poison damage with Gem of Infectious Toxin, Bane of the Trapped, that would be phenomenal damage. And maybe just run the Wild Gilderbeest, one that gives you the absorb shield. I think that would be enough defense. With the communing spirits making so the monsters do 25% less damage. I think that would be pretty cool, and then plus maybe you can run even the poison passive that makes it so that enemies who are poisoned do less damage. But those are just examples. But I would really like to do this build with two-hander because the hits are a lot harder, and then overall, like I said, with the Wormwood, you got the AoE effect of the Locust Swarm, or if you're using a Furnace, you got the extra 70% or the 50% increase of damage on elites. A lot of people are using SMK, and I can see it with Big Bad Voodoo and other thing like that, but preferably. And plus you can have the offhand that you can, set your certain skills to increase zombie bear damage, but I really think a two-hander would be a lot more fun. I think the zombie bear band damage could be a little bit higher, or they're going to have to change something with the Helltooth effect again, but they already talked about they're going to buff up the Helltooth again, so okay, we'll see how that goes. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, like I said, for the risk that you have to put yourself with just to get out the zombie bear cast, it's just a lot easier to run Gargantuan, because you can just run pure damage with Gargantuan, come in there, drop all your stuff, and just run away and let the Gargantuan go crazy, right? So a lot of people say like, oh, you just complain a lot about the sets and you need to be happy, and I'm like, well, if you want to play more than one set, then Carnival, because at the end of the day, I don't care if Blizzard makes these changes or they make the sets great, bad or good, I don't care. And it's not that I don't care about the game. The reason why I try to make these videos and discuss all this kind of stuff is to let you guys know what's going on, so that maybe you guys don't have a lot of time to test this stuff. Maybe you just get home and you just basically look at the video and you copy what I do and you can test the builds for yourself, or maybe you got some good ideas and stuff you can bounce off me. But the big thing is just to spread this information in the community about the state of witch doctors, so that people hopefully can talk with other people online and just be like, yeah, you know what, this set's not good, this is not good, and then we have discussions on the forums and we try to get them to change this stuff before it goes live. At the end of the day, if they don't change anything, I don't care, because, I mean, eventually I guess we're all just going to go Carnival. I even think with the changes to Helltooth, people are still going to go Carnival, because Carnival requires a lot less frustration. And it's a lot easier to just, focus on that build, because, I mean, well, I'll say this, I did see the Helltooth with Gargantuan in groups, that was pretty cool. With the Gargantuan, and the Helltooth getting all that damage out, using them to basically to do big damage on the bosses. In all honesty, I think Carnival is still king, because it was doing 60 to 63 before the Kanai Cube came out. The Kanai Cube came out and gave it more empowerment, so it's just going to be able to do even higher. But for the amount of effort you have to put in to get Carnival going as compared to a Helltooth, it's way much easier for a player to choose a Numasa or choose a Carnival build. And people say, well, everything can't be perfect. I understand, but what happens is when people are faced with these three options, and let's say, one option can go up to 70, one can go 65, and another one can go 63. As long as all these builds are relatively easy to play, or maybe not even easy to play, if they all have the same difficulty, like they all take, like let's say all of them were hard to play, right? They're all equally hard to play, or they're pretty much close. Then people can say, well, alright, well this is for people who want to rank top tier, but I'm okay with running this build because, you know what, they're pretty much all in the same levels of difficulty and gearing up and getting everything situated. But when you have one build that's the best, and it's easier to play, and it's easier to gear up, a lot of people are not going to actually want to play the Helltooth set or the Archaria set, because it's kind of, well, no, I'll take the back. For the Archaria set, I actually was messing around with it with the new Locust Form chains they put inside the build, and it actually worked out pretty good because it's a real simple build to play. It's real easy. Most players can enjoy themselves and just run through mobs and tag them, everything with Locust Form, and things die. But the big problem is that if these builds, if you have to risk too much, or you have to have crazy staggering gear and high level gems just to get it to work, or just to, and then you look at somebody else who's running, you know, a carnival build, and it's a lot easier, and he doesn't have as high level perfect gear as yourself, but he just has pretty solid gear and he's pushing higher risks than you. I don't care who you are. You at some point you're going to be like, why am I even playing this build, right? Now for the Gargantuan with Helltooth, you know, we'll have to see. They're going to buff it again, so I think that's going to be a top end build you'll see. And that build is a lot easier than the Zombie Bear Charger one, because, like I said, the Gargantuan does all the work. It's pretty straightforward, simple. You tag shit with your Helltooth, and you let your Gargantuan do these up to 50 million billion crits. Like 15 billion crits compared to what? 2 billion crits if you're lucky in a Zombie Bear Charger build? Who cares? You know, I'm not going to use Zombie Bear Charger. I can just use a Gargantuan who's going to do 15 billion crits, especially in parties. Can you imagine that in groups? They would love you on Rift Guardian. So my big thing is, the whole point of the Helltooth build is this: if you have all these additional skills on here, but only Gargantuan seems to be the most straightforward, easiest to gear around, and it does massive amounts of damage, who is actually going to use, you know, Zombie Bears? No one's going to use Zombie Bears, because they'll be like, you know, I can use Gargantuan. Gargantuan does like up to 15 billion crits. You know, I can summon him and stand back. He'll do his damage. Why would I run Zombie Bears? I got to run defensive gems. I got to get up in the... And that's, I'm not trying to say that people won't run Helltooth with Zombie Bears, but I'm just being honest. Why would you take something that's doing 2 billion crits when, I mean, you'd have to make Zombie Bears either cost a lot less mana, and in combination, you have to make that shit like start hitting really hard for people to want to use it. Otherwise, I'm going to use my Gargantuan. It does up to 15 billion crits, and it's a lot less stressful. And I can min-max and get that guard doing crazy amounts of damage. Whereas Zombie Bears, I got to put myself in the line of the fire, I gotta risk my life, I gotta get frustrated when I get bad mob density. Or Gargantuan with Helltooth just doesn't care about your density, doesn't care about how many mobs there are, doesn't care how crazy the mobs, because those billions of crits, like those 10 billion plus crits, just wreck all the way up until 60. I even would say even a little bit higher. So I hope you guys liked the video. And you enjoyed yourself. The Trar said I'm going to be releasing that video today too, so check that video out too. But like I said, there's 2 main builds for Helltooth. One's for Zombie Bears, one for Gargantuan. I would just tell you this: don't waste your time with the Zombie Bear. Just go for the Gargantuan, because that one will be a lot more rewarding and less frustrating than you messing with the Zombie Bear video or Zombie Bear build. Anyways, the video's clocking in at about 22 minutes, so I better get out of here. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. I got that big PTR update guide coming out, and they're going to be updating the 24-hour Witch Doctor guide for Season 4. I got all that stuff to get finished before the next season starts. Hope you guys have a good day. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream or enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one.